Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my Cuppa of Life Cafe. This is a virtual cafe that we launched 31 weeks ago to help people stay positive and inspired. And I am truly honoured today to be the host of this Table Tennis Australia Corporate Cup free webinar on fostering fun and resilience at work. My name is Cookie, and I am the CEO and founder of FunLocker and Cuppa of Life. And I am also your host today. I hope you like that intro video, because if you know Patrick, he's the one that crafted that incredible intro. But before I kick it off, I just want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. I pay my respects to them and their cultures, and to the elders, both past and present. Like what we usually do every single day that we run this virtual cafe, we just want to acknowledge a couple of things as well to give you the best experience today. Please ask plenty of questions to Michelle and Karen. Once we get to the end of the session, we're going to be asking plenty of questions. We want you to interact with each other. So you'll see the chat room. Please say hi if this is your first time in. Tell us where you're tuning in from today. I think we're all accustomed to the virtual world. And also make sure that you keep the conversation positive and fun and uplifting and all the rest of it. So please make sure that you have an interactive session with us. And now, if your screen is freezing, we are in the virtual world, which, you know, sometimes we can't predict what's about to happen. But if your screen is freezing, please make sure that you refresh your browser or try a different device if you're having continuous issues, whether that's a mobile phone or an iPad or your desktop, wherever you're watching in from today. So please make sure that you enjoy today's session. I'm going to bring in, before I kick it off, hey, if you haven't made a donation to Are You OK? They're our charity partner today. If you click on the offers area, click on that now and make a donation, because every donation goes to a great cause, which is Are You OK? But you'll also go in the running to win an $1,800 table tennis table for your office. Boom. So Patrick, I'm going to welcome you in now, mate. Can you please pop in and do your little intro for the community that has joined us today? How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good. Thank you, Luke. Thanks for noticing the video. It's not like I asked for it.
Mate, I reckon as a new career, a bit of a side hustle. We're all into side hustles during this virtual world, and I think you could do video intros now.
Absolutely. I might suggest it to our marketing manager if I can help out a little bit.
You should.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I'm Patrick from Table Tennis Australia. We are super grateful for everyone who spends an hour of their week to get some inspiration, motivation through us. I'm the project manager for the Corporate Cup, and what we wanted to do is to bring workplace ping pong to the next level. We basically use table tennis to drive social connectedness and fun within and across companies. Before COVID, we ran events in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, now in Darwin, and we engaged with over 200 companies. When COVID hit, we kind of felt that we had to put a hold on it, and there was so much uncertainty around the time of restrictions, around the impact it would have on companies, and therefore there was such a shift in the focus. However, we felt that with our stories from the amazing people in our sport and our network, there's something for us to share even within those crazy times. And those stories are how to drive fun and engagement at work, and stories of how to manage pressure and stress and build resilience. On behalf of Table Tennis Australia, I'm incredibly grateful for our speakers, Michelle and Karen, and of course, our host, Luke. To me personally, there's so much energy that I get from the stories that I see on their socials, the work they do, and just the positive energy they share with us every day. So thanks, guys, and I hope everyone will enjoy the webinar. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, buddy, for that. So everyone, thank you for joining us today. As what Patrick said, it's been one of those interesting years. It's like, come on 2021, what is going, sorry, come on, very funny 2020, but it's been a year that, you know, our teams have felt anxious, stressed, unsure, simply overwhelmed. I know I felt like that. Our business, FunLocker, which was around live experiences, where we used to bring in some top table tennis players to come into offices and take on staff. Our business stopped in March. And as a founder who's fully invested into the business, I was worried about my own mental health and well-being as well. And, you know, a lot of us, especially those in Melbourne, if you're in Melbourne, say hi. But, you guys have experienced such incredible lockdowns that, many of us have felt isolated or lonely or disconnected. And so as organisations, as team members, we've had to be forced to evolve our thinking in how we interact with each other, how we communicate, how we engage through this, the lens that you're seeing today. And so the importance of interactions, like what Patrick just spoke about, and the importance of conversations right now is imperative to the happiness and well-being of our employees and ourselves. One of the biggest things that we've learned in what we've been doing is how the workplace has evolved. Some of these stats here is 85% of employees would prefer to work remotely moving forward. Now, how does that work from a community sense in your organisation? How do you engage your community when most people want to have that sort of flexible working arrangement moving forward? So stats like that that we're sharing today are important for us to have that continuous conversation with ourselves. The other big thing is the mental health crisis that we're currently experiencing, and the importance of connection and having conversations right now. 82% of us are feeling in an emotional state that is detrimental to our productivity and problem-solving capabilities, which I think is an astounding stat. And considering that, 70% of employees do not seek to get their mental health checked if they're not feeling good, is another reason why, from us as a business, we've launched this virtual cafe called Cuppa of Life to help people start their day with positivity and inspiration. It's the importance of this conversation that we need to be having today, and being able to connect with great organisations with what Google does, which we're going to share with Karen very soon, around what some of the great work that they do to bring the community together is also important. But when we're chatting to Michelle as well, who's coming up next, the importance of resilience. Michelle was destined to go to Tokyo in 2020, and I'm very keen to understand how she mentally has been able to transition into thinking about next year in 2021. That resilience and what we talk about around flexibility, leadership and well-being and community is so important for our environment right now. Before we kick it off, we're very keen to share just how we think businesses like yours can deliver a plan that improves team culture, community engagement, employee well-being, communication and productivity. What we've learned through Cuppa of Life is the power of conversations and what impact that they can have in your community. I love this quote: "One good conversation can shift the direction of change forever." It's done it in me. Being able to launch our virtual cafe where we've brought in experts and personalities every single day to have a conversation has changed my mindset in a lot of aspects that I was a little bit blinded by before COVID. And so what I encourage you all today, beyond just having fun, is to have more impactful conversations with your teams around areas like happiness, mental health, wellness, mindset and motivation, sustainability, diversity and inclusion, productivity, communication, community and giving, leadership and money. All these key topic areas are what we should be sharing with our teams on a day-to-day basis. Now I want to kick off with our first conversation this morning. Michelle, can you please pop into the Cuppa of Life Cafe and share your screen for us and take us across your journey around resilience. Keen to see you pop into the room now.
Did you want to do the video as well?
Yep, put the video on.
Perfect. Hi guys.
Michelle, welcome. I'm very keen to hear your journey and your career. But firstly, before we kick it off, how have you been during this interesting period?
Yeah, it's definitely required a lot of adaptation, both from my sporting career with training and also with my corporate life now working from home. So I have been working from home since March, which I'm actually quite enjoying. I mean, I've missed having those one-on-one, face-to-face interactions with people, getting used to seeing everyone through the virtual world now. But it hasn't been too bad.
All right, Michelle, we're going to kick it off right now. So can you just share your screen? And very excited to see what you're going to present today.
Yep. Did you want to play the intro video?
Oh, yes, I'll play the intro.
Just to set the scene.
There we go. Let's set the scene. All right, here we go. Just turn off your...
Yep.
It's your song. It's your song. It's your song. It's your One final nail in the coffin. Sealing it. Makes the Olympic Games. Oh, earns the right to be nominated for the Olympic Games. Look how much it means to Michelle Bromley.
All right, Michelle, I'm ready for you. Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay, let me just share my screen.
Perfect.
Perfect. Well, hi everyone. So yes, my name is Michelle Bromley and I'm an Australian table tennis player. I'm really excited to be here today to be able to talk to you a little bit more about the lessons that I've learned through my sporting career that I've also been able to utilise in my corporate life and also just in life in general. So I'll kick off with a little bit about the background to my sporting career. So I did start playing table tennis at the age of 6. I'd spend hours hitting the ball up against the kitchen wall at home, driving my mum absolutely insane until I got a little bit taller and took to the table. And for me, I feel like I was really born into the competitive world of table tennis, which I know is strange for an Australian to say because it is definitely not a mainstream sport. My grandparents represented New South Wales well into their 80s. My parents met through table tennis. My dad actually spent a bit of time in England honing his craft on the court. And with my 2 older brothers taking up the sport from quite an early age, it was only really natural for me as the baby of the family to follow in their footsteps as a table tennis player. I've had many amazing successes in my sporting career. So just to name a few would be there was the youngest female player in New South Wales to win the state women's titles at just the age of 13. I'm 2 times Australian junior champion, under 21 Oceania singles champion. I've represented New South Wales since the age of 10 and Australia since the age of 14. And the sport has taken me all over the world to places I would have never imagined, being to more than 20 countries to play table tennis. I've represented at World Champs, World Cups, and so far, I mean, the highlight for me has been playing in front of a packed home crowd at the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games in 2018 and being able to share in that special occasion with my closest friends and family that have seen the struggles throughout my sporting career. And just recently, I've qualified for Tokyo 2020 for the Olympics women's singles and teams event to be celebrated in 2021. Although there have been some highs in my sporting career, there's also definitely been some pretty low lows. So I failed to qualify for the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne 2006, Delhi 2010, and Glasgow 2014. I failed to qualify for the Olympics in Beijing 2008, London 2012, and Rio 2016. And along with these bigger setbacks, I've also had to contend with team selections not going my way across the years, feeling like I'm in the day-to-day grind, fluctuations in performance and motivation. But alongside my sporting career, I also work a full-time job in marketing at Nestle. And what I wanted to share with you today are 4 key lessons that I've learned through sport that I've also been able to apply to my corporate life and life in general. So I'm going to kick off with lesson number 1, and that is dealing with failure and overcoming that fear of failure. In order to succeed, your desire for success must be greater than your fear of failure. And this is actually a quote that I found when I was Googling inspirational quotes in the lead up to the January Tokyo Olympic trials this year. And I kept this on my phone and kept referring to it throughout the 3-day trial event because it is mentally tough going into a tournament that you know you failed at on 3 previous occasions and knowing that it very well could be your last opportunity. All that mattered was that I was able to bring out my best table tennis in that moment. And I didn't want the fear of failure based on my previous experiences to get in the way of my desire for success. And over those 3 days, I definitely played from my desire to succeed, coming away with winning the event to get to Tokyo. It goes without saying I've definitely had my fair share of failures and setbacks, particularly throughout my sporting career, but also in my corporate life as well, whether it be a promotion that I tried to get and I didn't get it, or whether it was a marketing campaign that didn't go as well as planned. But what I have been able to take from these setbacks is that success and failure goes hand in hand. There's no one that has successes without their failures. And failure is the key ingredient in the recipe for success. And it really makes us more determined to achieve success. The world's greatest inventors didn't succeed the first time around. And when you look at many of the biggest business people today that we know, neither of them did either. They stumbled, they fell, they sifted through their experiences and went on to devise something bigger, something better, more valuable, more memorable. And for them, failure wasn't the end, but it was the beginning of their journey to success. I know that had I not been knocked down time and time again throughout my sporting career, that I wouldn't be the player and the person that I am today. It builds character and it's made me stronger both mentally and physically. Failure is also an opportunity for us to learn. There'll be times in life where no matter what you do, things just won't go your way. I know there's times where I felt like I played the best I've ever played and yet I still lost at the end of the day. I gave everything I had, yet it still wasn't enough. You won't always win, but what I can guarantee is that you will always learn. Failure breeds adaptability. When one way doesn't work, we look for other ways in. It teaches us to analyse, revise, modify. For me, the way I trained 10 years ago to the way I train now would look completely different. And that's because I've been able to review and adapt my trainings based on those setbacks that I've had to really enhance and modify how I play the game today. Whether it be complementing my on-table training with gym sessions to improve my strength and conditioning, or recruiting new training partners with specific styles that I've had troubles with in the past. Or it could be altering my technique to give me more power or efficiency to really recover for that next ball. I mean, the list goes on, but failure breeds adaptability. And step outside your comfort zone, embrace that challenge. For me personally, over the years, it's been scary for me to tell people that my goal is to make an Olympic Games. And what makes it scary is the unknown of whether you'll succeed or not. And that failure, the fear of failure creeps in because you don't want to fall flat on your face or get scrutinised for falling short. What I would say is embrace that concept that you don't know what you're actually capable of before you try, until you try. And if you fail, who cares? Dust yourself off and try again. Lesson number 2 is around discipline and the importance of driving your own agenda. Sacrifice for what you want, or what you want becomes the sacrifice. The notion of achieving success in sport and life is pretty simple. It's really all about hard work and being consistent in your actions day in, day out. Although the notion is simple, it's actually very hard to achieve. In the busy world we're all living in, it's easy for life's distractions to get in the way of goals that we've set ourselves, or to feel like we're just simply too busy. We end up losing momentum and we give up. What sport has taught me is the importance of discipline. It's provided me with routine, structure, and the inner strength to overcome laziness in order to achieve what I've set out to achieve. Being an elite athlete does mean that you do have to be quite selfish in your quest for success. Relationships take a back seat and you scarcely catch up with friends. For me, time with my partner and friends have been the biggest sacrifice. Over the years, I've missed out on a lot of gatherings, be it dinners or birthdays. But if you go to everything you're ever invited to, or you miss training because you've had a big day at work, it's those moments where, you know, if you cave, that's where discipline goes out the window, and that's where your performance starts to fall away as well. So here's a few tips to keep you guys on the straight and narrow. Goals help you stay focused and motivated. It's important to have your long-term goals that you're striving towards, but it's also just as important to have those shorter-term goals along the way that keep you interested and motivated to get you to that next major milestone. My goal since I was 10 years old was to make an Olympic Games. The chance to compete in Olympic Games comes around every 4 years. So for me, it's been absolutely crucial to have those smaller or shorter term goals in between in order to get me laddering up to playing in an Olympic Games. So whether it be the state or the national championships each year, or specific technical skills that I want to master at each training session, that really makes me feel like I'm constantly working towards something in the now that I know is laddering up to achieving my ultimate goal. Know your why. So it's really easy to get complacent and go through the motions each day. Days become weeks, and before you know it, a large chunk of time's gone by and you feel like you haven't really progressed too much. And I know I've felt like this. And what makes me feel like this is when I've lost the why factor in my training. When I haven't had a clear plan going into trainings, I'm practicing things, but not necessarily the right things in order to move my game further, and I end up feeling a little bit lost and unmotivated. Knowing your why shifts your mindset to a positive state, and you'll find that rather than feeling like you're just in the day-to-day, grinding it out, you want to get stuck about your daily tasks because you can see how they're laddering up to your ultimate goal. And keep yourself accountable, because no one else is going to. Plan your day like you're scheduling appointments. For me, my trainings are very regimented. I know who I'm training with, on what day, where, and my routine rarely strays from this. If you don't plan your time in the day and instead you're a bit more on the fly, like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow or when I get time, the chances are you'll never have time. At the end of the day, no one really cares if you achieve your goals or not. Sure, your manager or your coach, they're there to offer you support, and they're going to be happy if you do well, but they're not going to do the work for you. It's up to you to make it happen. Lesson number 3 is around the importance of achieving a work-life balance, or the art of putting ourselves higher on our own to-do list. Achieving a work-life balance is different for everybody, but the principle is that there's more to life than just our day jobs or my ability to play sport. Everyone's circumstances are different, and we're all juggling different roles and responsibilities within our lives. With a lot of us now working from home, so as I said before, I've been working from home since March with COVID, it's become even more important to ensure that we're all keeping to that healthy work-life balance, with the laptop or computer that's always there, and start and finish times are becoming a lot more blurred, and people are now actually working longer than they usually would. If you only have one focus, which for most people is work, with no breakaway, then your happiness is almost completely dependent on your day at work. Whereas if you've got something else on the boil, where you see other people engage in other activities that you get enjoyment from, then it can be the catalyst to shift you back to a positive mindset and stops you from feeling mentally burnt out. So what I would say is take time for you. On top of my regular 40-hour week in marketing, I also spend around 22 hours a week on my sport, be it on-table training, gym, video analysis, or mental work. So whilst I have really long days, I find the fact that I do have something else to attend to of an evening from a corporate life perspective is actually a real benefit for me. And it really gives me that release that I need from work in order to stop me from burning out, which in turn impacts our performance. In amongst my work and training, Wednesday nights is my one night off training in the week, where I can enjoy a bit more of a normal life. So going to trivia, catching up with friends, or just chilling with my dog and husband at home. And I find that this midweek break really helps shift my state of mind and puts me in a good headspace for achieving my goals for the rest of the week. Whatever it is for you, find that release. It could be as simple as making a conscious effort to dedicate more time to your family, learning a new craft like pottery or a language, or joining a mixed soccer team competition during the week. Whatever it is, it needs to be something that forces you to leave your work and focus on your efforts on something else completely different, and that sparks joy for you. And maximise performance in the hours that you do have. So work will always be there tomorrow, and maintaining a good work-life balance isn't about making performance sacrifices at work. It's simply about maximising performance in the hours that you do have. There's very rarely a moment where any of us are sitting around twiddling our thumbs waiting for the next email to hit our inbox so we can start actioning something. There's always something to do, and there's never enough hours in the day for us to get on top of everything. What sport has taught me in life, particularly working full-time and trying to fit in my sporting commitments, is the importance of making good use of the time that I do have available. So be strict on yourself and committing to your schedule. If you're efficient with your time, you can still get more work done than someone who's working inefficiently and working double the time. And the last lesson that I wanted to talk about today was around being relentlessly persistent. So ambition is the path to success, but persistence is the vehicle you arrive in. Being relentlessly persistent is the ability to experience failures and setbacks without being discouraged, and it's very much an extension of mental toughness. For me, going through the junior ranks of table tennis, I was always the top 1 or 2 in my age group between the ages of 13 to 18. But once you're out of juniors, you're all of a sudden a small fish in a big pond. You're up against women of all ages, people who've got many, many more years of experience than you, and you realise your skills aren't up to scratch to match it with the big league. This is the moment where people lose heart time and time again. Success doesn't happen overnight, so they give up on the dreams that they had as a 10-year-old. Whatever it is you're going after in life, be patient. Recognise that things of value take time and effort to achieve. If you're hoping for overnight success, you'll quickly get discouraged and when things get tough. And be a problem solver. Learn from mistakes, fix what isn't working, and carry on. Use what you learn to improve yourself so that you become stronger, more experienced, and well-versed that next time around. Surround yourself with those who lift you up. And this is actually a super important one. There's nothing more draining in life than being surrounded by negative Nancys, people who question your goals, people who put doubt in your mind and ask you, when are you going to give up? These are all situations that I've had across my sporting career, particularly in my mid to late 20s when I was still considered more of a fringe player in the senior national team. And I was still yet to achieve my ultimate goals of representing Australia at an Olympics or Commonwealth Games. So surround yourself with like-minded people, those who are supportive of your aspirations and those who have your best interests in mind. Most importantly, keep believing in yourself even when you feel like no one else does. That's super important. And lastly, you may encounter defeats, but you must not be defeated. There's probably not many people, I would say, who have tried and missed out on Commonwealth and Olympic Games as much as I have. 12 years of perseverance, showing up day in, day out, patiently waiting for the hard work to pay off, intermissed years of falling short. For me, I would say my biggest achievements in sport have happened late in my career. And if I had given up when everyone else around me had, I never would have achieved my dreams. I never would have had that special feeling of playing in front of a packed home crowd at the Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast with my closest family and friends watching on. And I never would have, at the age of 32, qualified for Tokyo 2020 had I settled for the Commonwealth Games and given up on my Olympic dream. I definitely haven't been travelling in the fast lane when it comes to my sporting career. In fact, it's been a pretty slow process. But with each setback that I've had, I've learned. And as a result, those gradual improvements and refinements to my game has led to success 12 years on from my first Olympic trials back in 2008. So to sum it all up, Fail. Failure is simply your first attempt in learning. Step outside your comfort zone and embrace that challenge. Set goals, be disciplined, and make sure you drive your own agenda. Importantly, take time for you, refresh yourself, and keep going. And lastly, be relentlessly persistent in everything you do. Whatever it might be that you're looking to achieve in your work or personal life, I hope these lessons resonate with you. Don't settle for less than what you want. Don't get disheartened when things don't happen overnight, and put your head down and work even harder to get what you want. Thank you.
Very, very good, Michelle. You nailed it. Nailed it. So many great practical tips and advice out of that, mate. I really do appreciate you sharing your journey, your relentless nature to achieve what you have. We've got plenty of questions coming through in the chat room, which we'll get to at the end, everyone. But Michelle, for now, do you mind switching off your camera and mic? We're going to welcome our second guest in now. Karen, can you please pop in from Google? Good morning. How are you?
Morning, everyone. I'm very well, thank you. And that, I just want to say, Michelle, was a phenomenal story of just lessons learned, the statements, the quotes. There are so many nuggets of gold that I'm going to take away, and I was writing down as you were talking.
It was so good, wasn't it?
It was phenomenal. It was amazing. And it's also really great to see how far you've come as well. I used to play, junior table tennis as well, and would look up to you, and just seeing how far you've gone now is just absolutely remarkable, amazing. So congratulations to you, and I'm wishing you all the best for Tokyo's coming up.
Amazing. Now, Karen, you work at what is probably classified as one of the best places to work when it comes to culture at Google. In fact, this week we're doing a Google experience with some of your team. We've sent out 100 sunflower packs, and we've got Costa Georgiadis, who's half hedge, half man, going to be teaching some of your team around sustainability and growing sunflower seeds. That's how, look at that, hey?
That is, I can never keep up with how many things are happening internally. I mean, we have an amazing Sydney site team that create these quirky, fun events all the time. So I think that was Sean Victor Vogovic who's organizing that. But yes, there's always a million and one things to do, on the agenda. But that sounds incredible, and I think I need to sign up myself.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, I'm going to hand it over to you now. So do you mind sharing your screen and taking us through how Google is able to achieve what you do?
Yep, will do. Let me know when that is coming through for you.
You're on now.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for having me today. It's really great to be sharing a little bit about Google's culture and just sharing my experience having been at Google for almost 4.5 years now. I've had, 4.5 years, but also 5 different roles since joining Google, currently in the Google Cloud sales team. And I've definitely, had a lot of opportunities to experience the amazing culture at Google and just really understand how Google, through some pretty cool and creative ways, establishes a culture of collaboration, ownership, and positivity. So I just want to share a bit more on a macro lens, the 3 main dimensions that really underpins Google's success as a business. And the beauty of these 3 components is that they actually all underpin each other. So there's actually a harmony, there's a balance between these 3 areas of technology, culture, and business. And so, we may have some cool technology, but if it wasn't for our empowered and creative teams, that wouldn't really be the case. We wouldn't have, things like Google Search and Gmail and all these products that we have. All of that spontaneity, innovation, and creativity wouldn't come out if there wasn't the collaboration and the teamwork that we have across our teams. And, we really do understand that to bring the best of our products to our customers and to be constantly innovating and, as individuals, we actually need to be bringing our best to work every day as well, to be constantly learning, pivoting, and embodying a growth mindset. So in a quest to actually bring about the best of individuals within teams, Google actually underwent a project called Project Aristotle. So they did a massive study with about 100 different teams over a year's time to actually find out what influences teams' behavior, how teams improve effectiveness, and just the overall outlook of an organization. And so what that study actually found was that it wasn't so much about who specifically was in a team. That actually mattered way less as to how the team's overall success was accounted or attributed. It was actually more about how the team interacted and viewed each other's contribution that really held a lot of weight. And so through Project Aristotle, through this research, Google actually identified that there is in fact a hierarchy of needs for a strong and effective team. Now, you might have heard of some of these terms before. That first and foremost, individuals that felt psychologically safe within their team were able to outperform any other organization, any other team that was recorded in that survey across hundreds of different teams. And so when you talk about psychological safety and, you try and, think about what does that mean, I'll give you some examples of what it feels like to, have some psychological safety in a team. So, when you think about, if you're able to brainstorm comfortably in your team without fear of being shut down, how comfortable do you feel about taking risk or, having failure? Do you feel comfortable in, asking your team questions that might appear dumb, but not feeling, incompetent, or putting out crazy, outlandish moonshot ideas, but without, feeling as if, you are going to be judged on that. So we've definitely, all been in situations where we've been afraid to ask those questions because we don't want to sound dumb and we're nervous to make mistakes. And we feel like, maybe what that might be held against us down the track. So it's a psychological safety piece of fostering that environment, that workspace that people can actually, open up and bring their whole selves to work. So we actually found that in teams that had psychological safety, teammates felt that their other teammates were dependable, that they could be reliant on, depending on high quality work coming through on time, that there was a strong sense of structure and clarity in the teams, that people knew, what they were doing, what they earned, what they were working towards, and how to get there. There was also a really strong personal, meaningful connection to their work, and they knew that there was significant impact of their work, not just within their team or the organization, but even potentially a high purpose. And so sometimes, you might imagine that building an effective team and positive workspace and workplace is like playing a game of human Jenga. You want to try and engineer the team with the best skill sets, personality traits, and backgrounds. But I'm actually pleased to say that given the right setup and environment, every team can be successful, especially during these times where we're required to be even more adaptable than ever. So just circling back on psychological safety, for a team to really be successful and perform at its peak, psychological safety needs to be established at the foundation, right? So Google really places an extremely high importance in this, and we actually provide various facilitator-led manager and team trainings to try and help facilitate and broker this as well. And some ways we actually achieve this is by placing a strong emphasis of not playing mind games, encouraging open and honest feedback, open and honest dialogues, and providing an environment where individuals feel comfortable to bring their whole selves to work. And I really genuinely mean this when I say bring your whole self to work. So one thing that I love at Google is that there are always, like I said, sharing with Cookie before, there's always 1,000,001 opportunities to get involved in community initiatives outside of your core role. Now, I'll share one example of an event that we run every year at Google called Take Your Parents to Work Day, which due to COVID became Take Your Parents to Work from Home Day. So for this event, we had hundreds of Googlers' parents, step-parents, I Wish You Were My Parents heroes, and others joining from Australia, Canada, Spain, China, pretty much all around the world, just to tune in and hear more about what their kids were up to, and just some updates from various departments of Google, like YouTube, Search, and Google Maps. And so as part of this event, I had the awesome opportunity to be part of a panel sharing more about the day in the life of someone within Google Cloud, and also ask some really cool questions about our culture and things like whether Google is a dog-friendly office, which it 100% is. So when we were actually back in the office, we would have Doogler, which is dogs that are owned by Googlers. So we'd have meetups on a regular basis, and you can see my dog Mishka that's featured there quite frequently. So I used to take her into the office quite a lot. So it was really cool to have these spontaneous events, but these events that would really bring teams and different teams together. So on that panel, for example, I worked with people from the YouTube team, from the Google Apps team, from the Search team. So it's having that diversity of thought and providing a platform and an environment to really have that sense of collaboration, to share a bit more personally, not just about what you're doing day to day for work. And one big area that I actually want to call out is the culture of celebration that we have. So when we actually have someone that does a phenomenal job, goes above and beyond, or helps out with something that's outside of their core role, as individuals, we are actually empowered with the ability to provide a monetary peer bonus to other colleagues for that amazing job. So this really allows teams to recognize and celebrate accomplishments, and helps to foster that environment where people can celebrate other people for their great jobs, but actually want others to succeed as well. And in this way, individuals have the ability to spread positivity and actually really make someone's day. So, this example is something that, you would see on our back end, which is, in this case, Brent's done an amazing job here. And someone here, Andrew is sharing through a kudos or a peer bonus to Brent for that great work. So they could put in a great message. And then from there, that would actually go out to them as a personal message. You could loop in the wider team. So say if it was for that take your parents to work from home day, that could be looped across the other panel speakers, some of the organizers, my manager. So things like that. It's a really great way to show appreciation of the work that's not just your core work, but it actually puts a sense of importance and puts a sense of weight into other community events, social events, things that we as individuals personally find meaning behind, but sometimes isn't as reflected or isn't as brought up to the surface. So I find this peer bonuses, G Thanks, as a really great way and really great initiative that Google has implemented to allow individuals to show thanks for their colleagues and teams for doing great work. And so just looking more broadly, there are some core elements that really help to drive culture across the organization. And I'll just dive into a few of these. There's quite a lot to cover, but I'll dive into three. So the first one that I want to go into is around empowerment. And for individual empowerment, we really pride ourselves on providing transparency through activities like our weekly TGIF. So every week we have leaders on a very high level. So we have Sundar Pichai, Google CEO, that actually comes and joins for these TGIF sessions. And in a very casual setting, we'll answer questions that are top of mind for the organization. So even, 20 years and going, and with almost 100,000 people in the organization globally now, we still have very senior leaders that join in their sweatshirts, in their jeans, and come on every week to answer questions that are burning, for a lot of the employees that we have. And so Google's founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, set Google up with a culture of openness. And their aim has always been to create an environment that fosters a sense of a connected community. And so in the spirit of openness, at large-scale events like TGIF and All Hands that we have, we actually have a function called Dory, where participants can add questions and suggestions, which then are actually voted by different people. And so, if something is top of mind, there is actually that kind of almost democratic way of, voting up questions and having things answered. So there's a lot of transparency, a lot of openness. All of our calendars are open. So if I would like to book in a session with my skip manager, with someone in a different department, I have the ability and I have the empowerment to do that, to go into Google Calendar and find that, search for that person, find that time and put some time in. So there is really that open hierarchy, that flat hierarchy that you can reach out to anyone. I was recently working on a project with a customer that is New Zealand Rugby, the All Blacks, and I reached out to the global head of media entertainment, the vice president, and dropped him a note. And they said, perfect, let me know how I can help out, and started engaging with the customer. So there really is that flat hierarchy that you can reach out to just about anyone, any product managers, senior leaders, and get their support, guidance, and help as well. So that hierarchy is really, really great. There's also some great things that are provided to individuals. So individuals are given ownership for their own career conversations. So having the right to actually self-nominate themselves for promotion during performance cycles, as well as being provided resources like personal development plans, internal and external coaching that we have, mentoring programs, and also site-wide events like Career Month, where we actually have a whole month dedicated to building up your internal CV, to how you can best present yourself, to things like Toastmasters. If you're looking to present, you actually have paid courses to help improve public speaking. So there's a plethora of activities and a drumbeat of activity that internally the site runs to help with all things around empowerment and your own career development as well. And so when you think of Google, it's quite natural to think of Google's culture of innovation. And so this is fostered by our internal mantra of 10x thinking. So thinking outside of the box to really improve things by 10x and not by 10%. So we have an amazing program that I like to share, which is called the 20% Project, where you can actually opt in to be essentially partially join another team for, say, a project, or join a department that's outside of your core role for 20% of your working time. So, for example, if I was, say, interested in esports, so I look after the gaming sector for Google Cloud. If I was interested in esports and cloud gaming, and I wanted to understand that, that area and that industry a bit more, I could actually reach out to the Google Stadia team. So that's Google's cloud gaming offering, and request a 20% project for a set period with that team. And so this is actually a really great way to allow individuals to diversify from their core role, to explore other areas of interest, build up new skills, and gain insight into bigger picture challenges. And just lastly, it's really worth noting the incredible physical working environment. I know Patrick's come into the office before as well. Unfortunately, and obviously this hasn't been available since we've been working from home, but there are some really great workplace features that we have, like collaborative working spaces, perks like coffee on tap, micro kitchens that are fully stocked with snacks, drinks, ice cream on every level. And actually there's a rule that you can never be more than 50 meters away from food. That's actually a thing. We also do have an on-site GP, chiropractor, massage therapist, hairdresser. There's dance, yoga, boxing classes, cafes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So there's a lot of great, perks at Google. But really, it's to provide an environment where you don't have to really think when you're thinking about your next meeting. You don't have time to think about having a healthy meal or grabbing food. So we try and create an environment where you are functioning at your best, so that you have all of those daily lifestyle things that you need to go to. Say if you need to go to a chiropractor, go to a GP to get a checkup or referral, those things are available to you on site. And one of my favorite things is actually our breakout areas where we have VR headsets, pinball machines, Xbox, PlayStation consoles, but most importantly, we have table tennis tables. And so back when we were in the office, we actually had 2 table tennis tables across our 3 buildings. And we actually had a group of almost, at one point, I think it was like 60, 70 people that were playing actively, and we would have an internal ladder system of competition. So it was really fun to have that environment and have that space that we could actually come together, socialize, but also collaborate as well. And it's a really great way to also meet different people in different teams, because we are quite a large organization. We have about 1,500 people just in the Sydney site office. So quite a big team and growing as well. And, so since now moving to remote work, it's definitely, it hasn't been the same, and trying to replicate all of these great, in-person elements hasn't been possible. But the part that I think it's been hardest to replicate is the organic conversations that you would have. So when you say lining up for a coffee or lining up for food, you would just bump into someone, have those organic conversations. And some of those areas, haven't been able to transition as well. But we do have some cool things like Lunch Ninja, where you can actually opt in to have lunch conversations with different people. So it's randomly assigned as well. So you just nominate yourself and then you're randomly assigned. And so really, really great elements of that. And we have great tools like Google Workspace, which includes Gmail, Docs, Sheets, that allows for seamless collaboration virtually as well. So that does really help. And one thing that I want to touch on as well is that we actually have over 2,000 various groups and clubs at Google, spanning from things like Pride at Google to the Pork Belly and Whiskey Appreciation Club. So just imagine your university clubs and societies, and now 10x that. So there's some really amazing community benefits that we actually receive as well. Things like there's charity gift matching. So for every year we have up to $6,000 per year for employees to have a charity gift matching for all donations, and we have up to 20 hours per year to also volunteer as well on initiatives that we'd like to focus on as well. And back in the office, it was great to have all these elements, but there's definitely elements that we're trying to replicate and see how we can try and move this into now a virtual setting. And so now moving into remote work, one area I've personally started getting more involved in is in a resource group in one of the communities that we call Connected Women Australia. And it's actually a group, it's an inclusive community that's focused on providing a platform for professional growth for women and allies in business and technology that's supported by Google, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so since the beginning of the year, I've been leading various virtual events on topics like coping with change, personal resilience, and that's all been extremely front of mind for our community. At the start of the year, we didn't have any, we had a LinkedIn group, but we had no way of tracking participation and membership. We actually launched that meetup group in May when we launched our first event, and we've just landed, I think we're just over 500 members now. So just seeing that momentum, seeing that growth, and we've got an event coming up as well in December that I'll share later on in the chat as well. But just seeing that community build, seeing that there are avenues to get involved in things beyond work as well has been really great. I guess just trying to bridge that gap moving to virtual. And for the recent event that we ran in September, we actually had Dr. Nikki Butt, who is an all-time mountaineer. So she has climbed the seven peaks of the world. We had Alex Blackwell, who is the former Australian women's cricket captain, and we had Nick Sargent, who's actually a colleague of mine within Google, but he actually traversed and broke the record as an Atlantic rower in his team. So, despite moving to virtual events, I'm personally extremely grateful to still be able to run events like this, to still connect with our community and, you know, really extend what we offer within Google to beyond Google and extend that to wider external communities as well. And it's, you know, it's still quite amazing as well to still be able to hold internal events like this team trivia that we had in musical bingo. So we had James Freco come in and he facilitated a great session with the team. And it was just nice just to all come together, be a little bit silly, go through the decades of different songs. It was a lot of fun, but having events like this just to, you know, connect the team, it is not going to lie, you know, you can't bridge that physical hug or seeing a colleague in person, but things like this have definitely helped the team to get through, you know, this what has been a challenging year for everyone. And we also have some great different channels internally as well to stay connected. So we have something called Meme Gen, where you'll actually find a meme for just about everything. And this is, you know, COVID-19 working from home bingo. So you can see it's been upvoted by 3.6 thousand people. So there's always things that pop up. And honestly, I mean, you will find just about anything on Meme Gen. So that's just a screen capture of something that I picked up right after the elections. But yes, there's always things that are top of mind, both, you know, outside of Google and within Google. So it's really good to get a pulse and a check of what's going on in the wider Google environment. And in terms of, you know, staying active together and whilst being away from the office, we've also had great things like September, Walktober, where the teams have actually encouraged for everyone to still stay active, to still, you know, stay fit, get your steps up whilst backing a great cause. So I created a team there with some of my colleagues for September, and we raised over $2,000 as a team collectively. And that was just our team. And then we had, you know, we had about 40 different teams across Google, Australia, New Zealand that participated as well. So just small initiatives like that, just to really, you know, keep that momentum, keep that engagement, have that accountability in the teams. There's nothing better than a bit of, you know, social, I guess, social accountability to keep you active throughout COVID. And I guess just kind of a few kind of takeaways and questions to think about. If you're in an organization, you're a manager, you're a leader, you know, some questions to consider around how you can empower your teams. You know, think about ways of how you're currently communicating with your employees. So is there a feedback channel? Is there openness in dialogues where there is open feedback and ways to actually, you know, probably have real-time feedback and quickly pivot and improve? You know, how does your organization normally source questions from employees? Do you have periods or cadences where you actually check in and see how the business is going, where you're heading, getting that sense check, that pulse check from the team? And, you know, how are you actually able to power the organization through different types of hierarchies as well? And then, you know, things around innovation. Is your organization open to failure? Are you open to taking risk? As Michelle mentioned quite rightly, you know, there has to be a certain level of and a certain appetite and ability to embrace failure. So is that something that, you know, is core within the organization? Are you able to kind of, you know, create that environment where employees are able to feel comfortable in taking risk and not fearing failure? And so just some questions to think about as an organization. I can share that through after the session. But just some really great questions just to think about when you're thinking about how you can actually create a wider sense of, you know, positivity, collaboration within your teams, and how to actually facilitate more engagement and I guess effectiveness as well. Just even moving to COVID times, you know, are your teams empowered to collaborate virtually now? Do they have the right tools and the right processes to do that? And what are some ways that they're able to connect outside of their immediate team or their immediate role? And in some examples I shared, you know, things like the Take Your Parents from Working From Home Day, the events with Connected Women. Those are just some of many events that we have internally that you can get involved in to connect with teams outside of your own. And so what it really comes down to is you. It's up to you to decide how you show up every day, to define your own narrative, and to really bring your whole self to work. Now, Google has some really great initiatives and structures to help foster a positive workplace, but ultimately it's really up to each individual's daily actions to focus on a growth mindset, have a mindset of, you know, being helpful, and have a willingness and an appetite to give things a try and to give things a go. That really, you know, collectively brings our culture at Google to life. So I hope that was quite insightful for everyone. I know I've probably gone a bit over time, but if you want to take over, Cookie, and answer any questions that we might have.
You were awesome there, Karen. It was really good to get an insight into how Google operates. It was even good for me to understand you know, the different aspects that you guys deliver. I'm going to invite everyone back into the room now, if possible, including you, Patrick. I want to see your face again, big guy. Please pop in again. We do have a couple of questions, so we're going to go through those questions now. I'm going to kick it off with you, Michelle. We had a question from Raul. Michelle, any tips on how to quickly get comfy within yourself, a table, and an atmosphere at any sort of table tennis arena?
Yeah, it is a good question.
There we go. You're good.
Yeah, you're good. All over it. That's a great question. I think for me personally, usually you do have that time leading into a big event to acclimatise to your new surroundings with the arena, and I think it's really important to have that solid warm-up beforehand, before the event kicks off. But also, once you are in the event, you know, it can be quite overwhelming with, you know, people watching and things like that. So I think what helps me is really focusing on my breathing and making sure I'm taking those long, deep breaths. And visualization as well is a key thing to sort of alleviate, you know, any sense of getting overwhelmed prior to going to the event. So you've already imagined it, you've already lived it through your head. So when you actually get there on game days, it's less overwhelming for you. So I'd probably say they're the two key things, would be breathing and visualization, and also getting out of your own head as well. So I think being able to get out of your head and focus on something external is really important to be able to bring out your best as well.
Do you have like a little ritual that you do? Like, do you know?
I do have a toilet stop beforehand.
Yeah. When we're nervous, you're good. Hey, okay, you're in Tokyo. Who do you want to take on? Who's your? That was a question from Joel.
Yes. So I think from a memorability perspective, it would be pretty epic to take on one of the Japanese players. So either Mima Ito or Kazumi Ishikawa, given it's going to be a packed crowd with very much table tennis enthusiasts, which is not the norm for Australia. But, you know, I'm really hoping that it doesn't happen first round. It happens a few rounds in. I think that would be great.
Oh, good. Another question from Sean. Do you feel COVID has balanced the playing field with other countries during lockdown? That's for you, Michelle, too.
So I think, yeah, with the whole COVID situation, actually, when we went into lockdown in March, I did actually start following a lot of athletes internationally on Instagram just to see how they were all coping with the idea of, you know, not being able to go to their regular trainings. So for me personally, I had 3.5 months of training back in my garage at home with just me and the robot, which did get pretty monotonous at times. But I think, you know, from what I've seen around with athletes around the globe, they've really been able to adapt to their surroundings, and you've actually seen a lot of people become a lot more creative in the way that they've been able to train and still maintain their performances throughout the lockdown period. So, yeah, I think from an athlete perspective, you know, everyone's doing their best to be able to cope with the current circumstances, and you'll see that a lot of people have become a lot more creative with how they've brought their training to life in order to maintain their level. Awesome.
Last question for you, Michelle. In a normal year, how many competitions do you attend on average?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So locally, we probably have around 8 tournaments, I would say, both state and nationally, that I would play in, and then probably 1 to 2 international tournaments a year. I guess given the fact I am working full-time, it is hard to get that international exposure, not being on the pro tour or anything like that. But we do also have the ability to play weekly pennants in Sydney too. So just to keep that competitiveness up and making sure we're still getting match play throughout the year for those big events.
Love it. Karen, I've got a question for you. Obviously, the big organisation that is Google, with 1,100 people in that beautiful spot down there in Sydney. Have you guys started going back to work now, like full-time, or is it how you've been going?
Yeah, so we've just kicked back on 1 day per week. So we have returned to office days. So Thursday's my day, and I went into the office last week. It was phenomenal. It's just nice seeing people. I wasn't very productive because I just ended up talking to a lot of people. Almost 9 months of not seeing each other and just seeing each other over GBC and, you know, virtually. But it's really great to have a bit of normality back. So looking forward to when we can go back.
Did you get on the table tennis table?
No, they've actually got it limited off limits because of COVID. They just think it's not hygienic with the balls. I don't know. So hopefully that changes soon.
Water bowl next to it and clean the balls every time.
Exactly right. But we'll be back in the office full time, hopefully by July. That's our tentative date.
All right, we're going to finish it off very shortly because it's just ticked over 11 o'clock. I'm just going to, Patrick, we had the question in there, which I saw that you answered as well, but are we back? Is the Table Tennis Corporate Cup back in 2021?
Yeah, totally. It will be. We just had an event last week in Brisbane where we ran a corporate cup, and we will do some bigger events again in 2021 in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, and then hopefully Darwin and maybe 1 or 2 other cities. So yes, definitely. I can't wait, to be honest.
It'll be back. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please give a wave of gratitude in the chat room for both Michelle and Karen for sharing their stories and their journeys in their work and life. Really do appreciate some amazing tips there today. So please do put that wave of gratitude in there. Thank you, Patrick, for having me hosting today. I really enjoyed it as well, and I learned a lot out of today's session as well. I always love hosting because you always get something, little nuggets out of gold out of the people that we talk to. Thanks very much for having that conversation today, mate. And that is it, everyone. I'm going to play everyone a video now from the Corporate Cup, and I'm going to share that right now. So if everyone can just switch off their videos and mics, that'd be great. See you later, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us once again. And I'm going to play this video now. Hopefully it works. Who knows? Virtual. Anyway, catch you soon. I'm Cookie from the Cuppa of Life Cafe, and we'll speak to you all shortly.
My name's Jamie Olsen. I'm president of Table Tennis Australia. I'll be very excited today to be, launching our program for the corporate sector.
It was amazing. It was unbelievable. The area was jam-packed throughout the day, and yeah, we had a couple of hundred people playing at our event.
Obviously, super pleased. I mean, look at that. Like, it's just going off.
Table tennis is already the unofficial sport in workplaces, so a lot of companies already have a table and people like to have a hit. We are aware of this, but there's actually no one who brings these companies together. There's no one who actually provides companies with an opportunity to make a little competition out of it. So we basically take workplace ping pong to the next level, and we invented the Table Tennis Corporate Cup. So the Table Tennis Corporate Cup is a workplace wellness program. The whole idea is that we provide a program in which companies can engage their staff and network with other companies, and we basically use table tennis as a tool to provide that.
The Corporate Cup will focus on getting companies to play within their company first, and then inviting them to come in and play against other companies as well. So it's just going to be a real fun environment, but also I'm sure the companies will be serious as well. Table tennis is a sport that anyone can play, any age, any ability, any gender. There's no discrimination whatsoever in table tennis. It's a sport for all and a sport for life.
I was surprised who is interested in table tennis. Regardless of the age, gender, position in the company, everyone participated. But more importantly, we are hoping that a lot of people bring their experience back home to their workplace, and they will share the experiences with the decision makers and hopefully sign up for the Table Tennis Corporate Cup.
This is about building connections and community within companies and between companies.
Companies that have already registered, they decided to join the Table Tennis Corporate Cup because they feel like it's a great opportunity to engage the staff regardless of what their position is within the hierarchy of the company. The other opportunity, of course, is that you can represent with a team your company, and you can then win prizes like equipment packages and so on. So the Table Tennis Corporate Cup will take place in February and March, and then again in August and September next year. They can jump on www.ttcorporatecup.com, where they can just fill out an information sheet and I send them further information, or they can register directly through the homepage. We really hope to see you guys next year at the Table Tennis Corporate Cup.